How's it going, everybody? Raising Hell here, and today I'm taking a look at a new game on Steam called Townsmen. And when I first took a look at this game, I'd say for the first 45 minutes to maybe an hour, I was not really all that impressed with it. I thought it was a little bit too much of a mobile port of a game, but after I started to get to grips with the actual mechanics of the game, it has a lot more depth to it than I initially gave it credit for. So, what do we have here? Well, Townsmen is basically like a crossover between perhaps Knights and Merchants and the Settlers series. It has a lot in common with both of those games, but at the same time it introduces a couple of new concepts to it. So, to begin with, you have a few scenarios right here. You have a total of 6 pages of them, ranging from easy difficulty to hard difficulty, and then there are also some sandbox levels, so you can actually just mess around in the world, different land masses, and pretty much play at your own pace. Because this is a micromanagement kind of game. It's a city builder. It's a sim game. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to continue a game I've previously been working on. So we're going to do military basic training. I'm not sure of the logic behind this idea that you should press any key or click to continue. I think that is an outdated mechanic that many games, especially strategy games, tended to use, and it really serves no purpose anymore. So there we go. Now unpause it, and here we are in the map. Now you can't actually pause this. You can only go at this speed, or you can speed it up. 5 times speed. And I would say that is one of my biggest problems with the game at the moment, is the fact that you can't just run it at a faster speed. For example, if I wanted to play the game at 5 times speed, I have to click on this every time. So I click on this 5 times button, and then if I want to, well, they're interrupting me, but if I click on that times 5 button, what's going to happen then is it's going to speed up, but whenever I click on another building, like let's say I want to adjust this building, well, it slows back down, and all of a sudden now I have to click on the have to click the speed up button just to get it going to speed 5 again. So you're going to find yourself clicking on that button or pressing the hotkey for that a lot. Maybe we should take a look at the options, because there are some fairly decent options here for a game that is it is ported from mobile. So you're going to take a look at the key bindings. Fast forward, you can just press space. So it's not all bad. There are some fairly decent key bindings here, and you can rebind them as well, I believe. Yeah, see, like that. So it's not, there's some effort was put into attempting to port this over, but it wasn't completely redone. Like the interface is very mobile oriented when you place buildings. For example, if I want to build this townhouse right here, this is exactly what you would see in a game like Clash of Clans or any of the clones of that game. And that was what initially put me off of it, because I thought, oh look, here we have the quest system just like every Clash of Clans game. Here we have the building just like every Clash of Clans game. And I didn't think there would be any more depth than that. And so that the first 30 to 45 minutes, maybe to an hour, it sort of put me off the game, because I got that impression of it, that it was a lazy port from a mobile title. And it is a mobile title, but it is actually a little bit more focused on single player than games like Clash of Clans is. So like I said, it really is influenced a lot by the games Knights and Merchants as well. It's especially Settlers, but also a little bit of Knights and Merchants. For those who played Knights and Merchants, it was a game like Settlers, but it came out probably in 1998 or maybe 2000. It's a fairly old game, so you might not have heard of it, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. So if you're familiar with either of those games, you will probably get to grips quicker with the Townsmen, this game, than you would otherwise. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit more about the game for those who aren't aware of the 2 aforementioned games. So what you have here is you have a castle, and pretty much everything comes out of the castle. So all the food, all the resources go into the castle, as well as the warehouse. This is where all goods are stored. And then you have various buildings that create production chains. For example, right here we have the pig farm. And in this production chain, we have pig farms, and we have the well and the farm. And what happens here is it takes wheat and it takes water to raise pigs. And when you have pigs, you can convert them into leather and food, leather and food, and then that turns into sausages. So you have these long production chains, which is very common in games like this, these city builder simulator kind of games. The farm is the same thing. We have a sheep pasture, we have a regular, that's the farm that I have clicked on right here. There's a wheat field and there's a herb garden, all 3 of those. And then if you click on this, well, I don't have any spare peasants, but that's how you assign your townies, I guess they're called, to the buildings, and then when they're working them. So let me turn off a building so I can get a townie back. That one's already asleep. Here we go. I'm going to turn off the warehouse for now, and then I'm going to start the farm. So apply a farmer to that, and he's currently working the wheat field, but we could also have him work for the flax or the cloth. I think it's sheep. And then there's also the spices, the herbs. So then he will go to the farm. He will create wheat. He'll store it in this building. And then once the wheat is stored here, one of the little delivery boys will come by, and they will take it back to either the warehouse or the castle. And from there, the production chain continues. Now, I haven't built anything beyond the farm for that production chain, but here we have the windmill, which of course converts wheat into flour. And if we go back after the windmill, we have the bakery, which converts flour into bread, and bread is something you can feed to your people. So it's a lot like the games that I like a lot. You know, the games with a little bit more complex production chains, and that can cause a lot of micromanagement in the game. If you're not a big fan of micromanagement, this game might not be for you, because most likely you will not have enough townies. You can get more townies by building houses like a townhouse or a large townhouse, but most likely you won't need them to be working all things at the same time. For example, I have my smelter turned off here. I have my coal burner turned off. You're not going to need resources in equal parts all the time. So you end up having to micromanage the economy a fair bit to make sure things are done efficiently. I imagine it could be played without paying much attention to the micromanagement of the economy, but most likely the harder scenarios would be very difficult indeed to complete if you're not paying attention to that. So here we have the merchant. He finally came into the castle. We can access him by clicking on these little statistics buttons there. It's not very intuitive. Like I said, I think this is one area that could have been better ported over from mobile. But once he arrives in your town, you can start selling goods to him, especially any goods you have surplus of. And I find this is one of the best ways to really raise a lot of gold quickly, because at the base tax rate, your townies do not give you much gold. If we go, where is the townie tax rate thing? Right, here's the tax rate at the moment. I mean, once again, you can tell there's really it doesn't tell you what percentage your tax rate is at. You just have this little percentage slider, and you just can sort of see a visual representation of it. So for somebody who's information hungry like myself, I like to see the numbers behind everything. It doesn't quite satisfy that desire, I guess you could say. I wish there was more information. Like there are no tool tips. You can click the little eye icon in pretty much any screen that will give you more information about stuff. But once again, this is like what I said. It is still focused on touch screen devices, and it hasn't been properly adapted for pointing devices such as mice, where you normally would just be able to hover over an icon, for example, and it would give you information about it via a tooltip. That is a very common means of conveying information in Windows, especially Windows programs. So it's not all that foreign. Up here, the upper right corner, we have the season cycle. So you might have seen one of my other saves. If we go to the load, no, okay, apparently not. Anyway, there are different seasons. So there's the spring, summer, fall, and winter. When it's winter, the land will be covered with snow, and it'll be all white, and your fields will no longer grow. There are several different production chains that will no longer function correctly, so you have to make sure that you are prepared for winter, so perhaps your townies don't starve. And you could say, yeah, in addition to games like The Settlers, I suppose it is a little bit like Banished as well, especially in terms of the flexibility, which is, I think, one of its biggest strong suits over games such as The Settlers. Settlers is very rigid in terms of where you can build buildings. You're not allowed to, really place them where you want. You have to build them on top of a flag. In some ways, it keeps things orderly and makes it easier to actually manage expanding an economy. But in some other ways, it's just nice to be able to plap down the buildings wherever you would like them to be. Now, I just completed a quest right here, and you might think that quests could ruin the game, and I would agree that it is certainly possible, and I have seen games that got so overly focused on questing that it really deprived the player of any agency to actually, play the game their own way. So I'm going to claim that reward there. But I would not say that that's the issue here with Townsmen. What the quests do is they give you an overarching goal. So in other words, you'll be given an objective to complete. But in between you completing it and or you receiving it and completing it, there are plenty of opportunities to sort of use your own judgment in terms of what you want to build next, or what direction you take, what objectives you have. You do not have to follow a set path, which is one of the biggest problems with a lot of quests that just continually hold your hand the entire game. And I'm glad that Townsmen doesn't do that. So what do we have here? Well, this building is on fire, and that's because it has deteriorated. The health of the building is relatively low, and so I'm going to have to repair it. It costs deniers, whatever they call these things. I'm not even sure. It's gold, essentially. You have to pay gold to repair the buildings, and otherwise they'll start on fire and stuff. And it also decreases the happiness of your townies, I believe. Well, we can see influences, but that's not it. Where do we go here? Desires, housing conditions. See if your housing conditions fall too much. I mean, right now we're at 100%, so it's not too bad. Not too bad, it's excellent. You really can't get any better, but it can fall. So you want to keep an eye on that. You have a bandit camp here, so there is combat in the game. I think that is pretty cool because sometimes games can get a little bit boring if you're not challenged on a fairly regular basis. I have 3 soldiers I can send to take care of the camp, but I don't think that'll be enough at the moment. At the moment, they are sending their bandits out, and they attempt to try to pillage my buildings. I'm not sure if you've seen the bandits loitering around the place, but from time to time, they will emerge from the camp, such as that one right there. He's walking along, and they're going to try to steal my resources. And you can prevent this simply by building a barracks, which is right here, and then you can build guard towers within the range of that barracks, and they will have little soldiers. This one is armed or manned with 2 soldiers. And those soldiers will, let's speed this up, I want to show you, they will emerge from the tower and engage the bandits. So the bandit is coming along the road, and there I think one of our soldiers is going to meet and engage him. He's still trying to catch up, and they're fighting. Obviously, the better equipped your guys are, the more likely you are to win. That bandit was defeated. Here we have a couple of other bandits walking along. That bandit is fighting, as well as, okay, this one just went on past, but he's going to be engaging that soldier. So my soldiers are winning quite a bit, but at the very beginning of this mission, it was rather interesting because, like I said, once again, they gave you, the player, choice. Like, you could give the bandits some tribute, and then they would say, oh, you're such a fool. Why did you ever give us this tribute? We're going to attack you anyway. So the game was set up, this quest was set up in such a way where it looked like you were supposed to be giving the bandits tribute, as if that was a way to naturally progress through the quests, but it was actually optional, and you could actually fail the quest and still continue the game, and you'd be richer for it because you wouldn't have had to spend your gold on the goods that the bandits had demanded from you. So I'd restarted it again, and then I made those decisions, and I was the richer for it, and it was easier to complete the mission. So like I said, the quests in this game, in Townsmen, are not bad. They are some of the best quests I've seen in sort of in this genre. And this genre is not very popular with quests. You will not see many real-time strategy and strategy simulation games make heavy use of quests. Usually there will be an overarching goal, but there will not be intermediate quests in there like this game has. This game does not have the micromanagement hand-holding quests, but there are multiple steps of quests leading up to the ultimate objective of the scenario. In this case, it's complete basic training and defeat the bandits. So overall, I really like the direction that the game took. Obviously, there could have been a lot of improvements made in terms of the port. I think it's a mediocre port at best, but it is a quality game from what I can tell. There are a fair few production chains. If we look at the food buildings, needs buildings, look, there are a lot of different production chains here. So it is by no means incomplete, and there aren't any microtransactions, because that was something I was also worried about, is that it would not be capable of getting rid of the microtransactions. I took a look at the Defense of Greece game, and that was a perfect example of a game that moved from a free-to-play model to a paid game on Steam. And it broke the microtransaction and unbalanced the game in the process, because you could get free currency because you no longer had to pay for it. And it sort of defeated the point of playing the game out, because you could just pay for cheats, essentially. It removed the strategy from the game, because originally that strategy was, well, give us money so you can win. And that's not the case at all in Townsmen. It is a fully standalone single-player game. It does not require microtransactions. It does not require an internet connection to play, and it's a fully fledged game. And it's a pretty reasonable price, too. Like, I mean, I could understand you saying, well, look, it doesn't look that great. You know, it's a little bit dated looking. And I agree. But at the same time, it's going for about $11, which is a fair price, I think, at this time for a game in this condition, this state. It is pretty good. I had fun playing it. I played it for about 3 hours, and after about the first hour in, I really started to enjoy it once I started understanding a bit more about the complexity of the economy and basically how it worked and what I was expected to do. Because up until that point, I was a little bit disappointed in it. My impressions of it were going to be considerably more negative than they are now. Now, I would definitely recommend this game if you liked games such as The Settlers or maybe even Banished. Both of those are very simulation kind of games. But if you're not big on micromanagement, it might not be for you, because this is a game that is going to require a fair bit of attention to detail to keep it to keep your economy running efficiently. So anyway, I hope you found that informative. This has been my first impressions of the game Townsmen, recently released onto Steam. Thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.